Hello, my name is Bubble. I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a thoughts video. So I had some time to spare, and I thought, you know what? I'd never give my thoughts on Lisboa, which is one of my favorite games from 2017. This is a game by Lacerda, who does some of the best Euro games out there, in my personal opinion, and it features Lisboa, a town that is similar to Athens in the sense that it went through earthquakes, fire, and flooding all within a similar weekly span, which made the lives of those people really, really, really suck. You essentially play as advisors to the nobility. So you have the architect, the king, and the prime minister, all of which you're trying to impress so that they can help you rebuild the city. So you're basically doing their job for them, or they are paying you, but when you build something, you have to then pay the city. It's weird. Now, I will say one of the things I like about Lacerda is just because of the theme that he always goes for. There are certain game designers who will design a game, and they'll think of the mechanics first, and they'll be like, okay, well, what theme can I attach to it? Then you have Lacerda, who's like, let me go and look up this theme that seems quite interesting, and it's this obscure, really weird theme. And then he'll be like, I can make a game out of this. But he'll research the theme, and he'll tie everything in to that theme. All the mechanics tie very nicely in. When you have games like the Gallows, where you feel like this is sleazy art dealer. When you play Vinost, you feel like a, well, sleazy wine merchant or vineyard owner. And when you play Lisboa, you do feel like you're building a city. I would probably say this is the weakest one when it comes to his theming. I think even CO2 is much better in the fact that you're trying to save the planet. Lisboa doesn't really do the same thing, where it's just, you'll be like, what is my action really doing, in a sense? You'll probably notice that I'm trying to put off actually talking about the game, mostly because it's not an easy game to talk about. Let me just put it this way. You have a rule booklet, which is, what? It's got no page numbers. 1921. You have a rule booklet which is 21 pages long, which is not actually that bad for a rule booklet, but then you have actual player menus for your game. This, so people know what all the rules and all the references are, and then you have a very handy dandy how does your turn go sort of rules reference. I will say now, I should point out, Toole, who did the artwork for this game, is absolutely incredible. Nothing about this game is ugly. This game is so gorgeous, and this reminds me of a Portuguese restaurant, which is not the best comparison, but it really does show that a lot of effort hasn't gone into making this kind of game coming live. Again, like I said, I'm kind of not talking about the game simply because it's kind of difficult to. The game essentially is grand in scope, and the rules, well, not difficult to learn by the rulebook. You kind of start your first game, and you'll start your second game, and you'll start your third game, all going, wait, what am I supposed to be actually doing in this game? What is my turn supposed to be accomplishing? Essentially, on your turn, you're either going to play a card to the nobility, where you'll get the nobility to help you, or you're going to play it down below and get the card's value and just use your own influence to use the card. I'm summarizing it a lot simply because I'm struggling to remember exactly how it's supposed to go. Even if I look at the rules reference, it's like, okay, you can either play a card into a portfolio, in which case it either goes to the nobility or goes to the treasury, or you can play a card to the noble and then perform those noble spots, or you can play a card, or you can just discard a card. It's not easy, in a sense. Essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to work with the three nobles to do stuff. You have the architect, who will allow you to build buildings. You have the prime minister, who will allow you to get objective cards, which are going to give you points at the end of the game. And also he allows you to ship out your goods. I hope I'm not getting these confused. And then you also have the king, who will ceremoniously just walk up to a spot and be like, this is a new shopping center, go wild. And he'll open up a spot for you, or he'll just give you favors, which will allow you to help the other players. Not the other players, will help you basically follow on from another person. You have other subsections where you're essentially trying to build the town of Lisboa. That's the main way of scoring points in the game. Whenever you kind of place down a building, you're going to be taking these rubble cubes, nicely broken down into red for fire, brown for earthquake, and then blue for flood damage, and you're trying to then create almost like a collection of them. So you want to get all three colors, and they'll slowly give you more influence to spend over the course of the game. It means that you get to put down more cards into your portfolio, and then when you activate your portfolio, you'll get all those bonuses, which is quite a nice little cute touch. And it is quite nice the fact that you go into the rules book and it is actually explained to you as to why that makes sense. Something to do with the fact that the king was very clever because he decided you can use all certain bits of rubble to actually rebuild the town. That's the main way you get points, by building towns, and then you're going to be scoring those buildings at the end of the game based on the objective cards you've chosen. And there are quite a lot of objective cards. I think there's something like, about 30 or 35 different objective cards for you, and it'll either be like have this many, you'll score points by having this many houses, or score points having this many houses in the gold section, or we have this many houses or shops, I should say, have this many shops in the A section, or the A street. That's the rough kind of rules explanation of the game. The game does really shine in the fact that it looks so good. It doesn't really draw you in terms of the mechanics, but the certain art style definitely does. It's got this beautiful tile motif going on, and it's not a difficult game to play. Once you've gotten in for the first time, it's quite easy. You know your actions you're supposed to do, but the trouble is you're not really guided until you start actually picking up those objective cards from the Prime Minister. You're not really sure of which direction you're supposed to be going to. Should I be trying to get all my shops in the gold row? Gold is worth a wild resource, so I should be trying to get my shops into various different, there's tools, I think there's paper, there's money, or gold in this case, and then there's, I'm just like looking through my tiles now, there's a rope, there's books and tools and paper? Or is it silk? I think it's silk. Actually, I think that's pretty much silk in a sense. So you're trying to basically form shops. You can then ship off these goods and get yourself money, which will then go towards rebuilding the town. And they're also worth victory points that you can see as well at the end of the game. Now, you do that by each round, you'll be basically drawing a card. Whenever you play a card, you'll essentially just draw a new card from the top of the deck, and then you can either play it from the top, which is just going to give you a certain amount of influence, or you can play it at the bottom and do the special action listed below. Again, you could also just say, I'm going to the king, and I'm going to ask him for a favor. Or I'm going to go to the Prime Minister and ask him to ceremoniously give me some objective cards, which is the bottom action over there. And what's nice is the game has two eras in which these cards become significantly more powerful or weaker, depending on which card you chose. And you also have to plan out your game. There's also another aspect where there's a clergyman that moves around the board, essentially, and whenever it moves to certain places, you can then pick up a tile, which will give you a permanent bonus towards the game, or you can just basically cash those bonuses in and score yourself some influence points, or victory points, which is considered wigs in this game. There's a lot of mechanics. There is the building of shops, there's the clergyman moving around, there's objective tiles you have to go for, there's interacting with your public buildings, which also will score you points in different rows. There is the shipping, where you have to ship off different goods, and you can also ship off goods on different other people's ships. If I sound tired, it's just because this game gives me a headache just thinking about it. Again, this is not a bad thing. I enjoy this game a lot. When I play it, I just absolutely lap up everything the game has to offer. But it's always that trepidation at the start where it's just like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because you really, really don't. I feel sorry for anyone who has to introduce this to new people because they're just simply not going together. They might understand the rules, but it feels like you're not really doing much. I will say that's my one biggest downside, is that you're building Lisboa, but that's not really how you're going to score points in the end. How you're going to score points is basically building the right buildings in the right place, which I suppose is a nice, again, competitive aspect to a game about building. You know, you're essentially competitive when you're trying to build this broken city. There is a certain aspect of you get like nice little like historical events, like Brazil begins exporting cotton to England, or the creation of the ironwork factories in Lisboa, or promotion and investment in industrial progress, which is a nice little touch to go on these cards, which kind of just brings you closer. And of course, you can set up yourself in different ways. Remember those clergy tiles? You can go for a certain combination of clergy tiles. So this gives you an absolute bonus whenever you build, say, a silk building. And then all your kind of focus is going to be towards silk buildings. But then you have the situation where you might just not get objective cards that want you to have silk buildings. It's very much the case. These objective cards become really swingy at the end game. You are very much fighting for which ones you have, but then you also have situations where someone's just going to pick up the card because, well, that scores them like 2 points, but it's not scoring you 20 points. And that's kind of huge in a sense. Like, this is the objective deck. It's absolutely huge and full of objectives. So this could be everything from you score 2 points for every house on the D row. For every house you have in the yellow street, you're going to score 1 point, and this is for anyone's house. You also have, you get, for every 2 influence you have, you score 1 point at the end of the game. There's so many to go for, and you'll be probably grabbing up at least 10 of these during the game, but there's just so many to go for, and oftentimes that is kind of the swingy nature of the game. You can still get a lot of points by cleverly building and having a really efficient building engine, but a lot of these points does come down to these objective cards. You know, you could have a very great one, which is for every set of items you have at the end of the game, or for trade goods, you get 5 points, which is massive. I think this actually, you can only do this once. I think it's only worth 5 points, but still, that's huge. Looking to it now, it's like you get 1 building for every building in the west quadrant. Not exactly sure. You can tell it's been a while since I played this. Actually, it hasn't been that long. It's been like not even a month. That's still a lot of... I'm struggling because I've remembered the rules, and I probably could play it, but I'm going to be scared to play it. But I like it. It's this really weird thing. It feels like not a bad relationship where the person is quite scary, but you enjoy the time you spend with them. And it's not to say Lisboa is a wild game. This is a very well-designed game. There's no cracks. Unlike the picture you see in front of you, there are no actual cracks in Lisboa's design. Everything has gone through the ringer in terms of how well it's designed, what scores, how many points. You know, it's very, very tight and clean. But it also does feel like this is one of the more wilder attempts by Vita Lacerda. And I only say that because I'm also experienced with Gallerist and Vinhost, two of which are both games I thoroughly enjoy. If anything, I would say Lisboa is probably the most wild attempt from him, apart from the CO2 new edition, but that's completely besides the point. I would say Vinhost is safe. It's very safe. If you played Vinhost, especially the new edition, the 2016 edition, then that's a very safe design. Very nothing strange. It's just making wine. It's like the slightly bigger and better version. Actually, it's the much better version of viticulture, in my personal opinion. And then you have the Gallows, which is slightly more... You can see Vita Lacerda was kind of exploring new things, but again, it's a relatively safe design. You have... It feels like you're very much self-contained. In Lisboa, it felt like Vita Lacerda was just like, you know what, let's just go wild. You can do whatever you want. You could just be a person that never builds a single building and scores all his points by trading or influence. Or you can be like, I never gain money, I'm just going to use all my influence to buy buildings instead. It's crazy what this man has done. Here's the thing. These first videos are generally just me rambling on about what I think of a game. And for me, Vinhost is a game it would never leave my collection. I would play it if someone said, do you want to play Lisboa? God, it's easy to get these two things confused. They're both in Portugal. I would definitely, if someone said, do you want to play Lisboa? And I had 2 hours to spend, I'd be like, sure, let's go for it. Why in the hell not? If someone said, do you want to play Lisboa and they haven't learned the rules, I'd be like, maybe we should go for something a bit more safe, in a sense. But I like this game. I really do. I like the fact that I have the Kickstarter edition, which comes with little metal coins. I love the artwork to this game. I like the choices you make and how the clergy tiles just give you these massively like overpowered bonuses sometimes. Sometimes they could be like you just don't have to ever spend influence. I absolutely love that. I love the public buildings, which are just these, again, wonderful designs that have really like come about. This scores you points for every gold in every book in that street. That's just great. That's great. And it's double-sided, because that's how the game works. And then even you have the storefronts. which actually tell you which direction the stores are facing. You can see it by the corner of the edge. Everything is so nicely thought out. The production quality is wonderful. And here's the biggest reason why I would suggest you go out and buy Lisboa. It's a heavy Euro, no doubt about that. If you like heavy Euros, you want this game. But even if you don't, hear me out, even if you don't, I think it's extremely important to support designers like this. A designer who goes out of their way not only to make a very, very well-designed game mechanically, but also the designer who takes the time to come up with a theme that has not been done before. This is not just trading in the Mediterranean. This is not just aliens in space. This is not just a medieval miniatures game. This is about rebuilding the city of Lisboa, and throughout the whole book and throughout the whole game, you learn about the history of it. And that is just applaudable. In Vinhost, you feel like a wine merchant. In Gallerist, you feel like a gallerist owner trading paintings and art to people. In Lisboa, at the end of the game, you look at the board and you feel like you've built up the city of Lisboa back from its crappy origins, and you made friends with all these nobilities, and you shipped off goods on these wonderful cards. And I have to applaud that. I don't ever want to not have this game in my collection because it does something incredible. I again think Lacerda has done a very fantastic game. It's scary, it's imposing. I would not play it with new players, but I want to play it again. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I hope you have enjoyed this randomly thoughts video on Lisboa. If you did, remember to hit the like button and of course subscribe. I will hopefully put out one video at least a week, and even more. I think this week we managed to put out at least 3 videos. And of course, if you disliked it, leave a comment why. Maybe you think the Gallerist is better. Maybe you think, I'm just putting it out there, maybe you think Viticulture is better than Vinhost. Maybe. Not saying you do. Not saying you don't hold anything against you, but maybe you think that. But leave a comment. I would love to hear from you guys. Anyway, thank you so much. That's going to be it for me. Bye-bye.